I love Resident Evil. Capcom has, for the most part, found immense success in both the new games and the remakes alike, and it seems RE9 will be no different. But if there's an area that Resident Evil has been struggling with for the longest time, it's the multiplayer spin-offs. Umbrella Corps was a flop, Resistance has its fans but is generally pretty forgettable, and Reverse was shut down less than 3 years after launch. But there's recently been a lot of revived interest in Capcom's first attempt at a multiplayer Resident Evil game, thanks to Resident Evil 9. This is because of the return of a character named Alyssa Ashcroft, a character first introduced in Resident Evil Outbreak and File 2. But why are the Outbreak games held in such high esteem? Well, in this video I hope to illustrate at least some of the reasons why I like the game. Oh wait, did I forget to mention that I like the games? Resident Evil Outbreak was released in the year of our Lord 2004, and a year later it got a sequel in the form of File 2. As previously mentioned, it was Capcom's first attempt at a multiplayer Resident Evil game. Now if I had to compare it to a more modern title, I would say it's kind of like Left 4 Dead, at least in terms of its general structure. Both games are split into several campaigns, or in Outbreak's case, scenarios, but that's kind of where the similarities end. Left 4 Dead is a horde shooter with survival horror elements, where Outbreak is at its core a survival horror game. In fact, it plays a lot like those classic RE titles that came before. I actually think that's why it's remembered so fondly. It's a Resident Evil game. It's not a Resident Evil themed tactical shooter, it's not a Resident Evil themed deathmatch game, and it definitely isn't a Resident Evil themed Dead by Daylight clone. Ugh. Outbreak isn't trying to be something that it's not. It doesn't have any weird, unnecessary gimmicks. You know, it's a Resident Evil game where the gimmick is that it's multiplayer. And I think that's why it works so well. Outbreak takes place around the same time as Resident Evil 2 and Nemesis and follows a group of survivors navigating the Raccoon City incident. Now there are 8 playable characters in the game. Kevin, a laid-back RPD officer and my personal favorite Resident Evil character. Mark, a grizzled security guard and devoted family man. Jim, a chatty, clever, and sometimes cowardly subway employee. George, a recently divorced doctor who has probably one of the hardest lines in all of gaming. David, a strong, silent type plumber with a shady past. Alyssa, an assertive, confident news reporter with an knack for digging up information. Yoko, a quiet and reserved college student suffering from amnesia. And finally Sydney, a compassionate, selfless waitress with some botany knowledge. Now each character feels distinct from one another in both personality and gameplay. Every character has their own stats, abilities, and even bonuses in certain scenarios. I don't know, maybe I'm just a sucker for these ragtag groups, but I love this cast. And I think that has to do with the weird amount of lore that each character has. For example, George likes to collect watches and hates Mr. Raccoon almost as much as his ex-wife. But Sydney loves Mr. Raccoon and has a poster of him in her locker. Or how, despite being one of the best shots in the RPD, Kevin has failed the STARS screening test twice. It probably has something to do with the fact that he's kind of an alcoholic. Oh, and remember when I said that there were 8 characters? Well,
I lied.
Pretty much every NPC can be unlocked and played as, although they all share the same abilities as the main 8. My personal favorite NPC is Miguel. He's a Kevin-type character who starts with some pistol ammo and mainly communicates in nasal hums. Now there are 10 total scenarios, each taking place within or around the Raccoon City area. And while some of these areas are returning from previous games, most of them are brand new. Now, I think the real standout scenario in the game would be Wild Things. I mean, come on, it's a zombie-infested zoo with zombified zoo animals. You have to admit, that's kinda cool. Some scenarios will have different endings depending on your choices. For instance, in Wild Things, if you don't contain Oscar the elephant or he breaks out of containment, you'll end up having to fight him at the end. But if you succeed in containing him, you'll have to fight the king himself. Rest assured, whichever one you end up fighting, you're gonna feel really guilty afterwards. Now, if I had to pick a personal favorite scenario, it would probably be Below Freezing Point, as I just think it's cool. It's got this kind of rucked thing where all the characters get split up and you have to meet each other in the middle. I don't know, I just think it's a really fun gimmick. The only thing I can really complain about is the aesthetic. It's not bad at all, but it just isn't as good as something like Wild Things. Now, I also really like Flashback. It takes place in this dark, dilapidated hospital in the middle of the Arklane Mountains. Not only is the hospital overgrown with mutant plants and zombies, but there's also the Axeman, a masked murderer who stalks you the whole time. I also think it has the best story out of all of the scenarios. I'm not going to spoil it here, but it's just got the right amount of creepy and weird and sad. I just really like the vibe, you know? Something about a creepy, overgrown hospital in the middle of a foggy forest just scratches an itch for me. It kind of reminds me of the hotel from this movie called Reincarnation, but that may just be a reach. Also, the scenarios will play out a little differently depending on the difficulty that you've selected. Things like extra steps to the puzzles, or key items being found in different places, or even enemies being in very inconvenient spots. There's also a single-player mode in the game called Lone Wolf that removes all the AI companions, which is my preferred way to play single-player. Now, Outbreak has a fantastic soundtrack, which isn't surprising considering the lead composer, Akihiko Masumoto, is a Japanese Academy Award winner. Masumoto and his fellow composers deliver an absolute banger soundtrack. Now, what makes this soundtrack stand out, at least in my opinion, is that it delivers the one thing that every other game does not: a definitive theme for the series. Now, don't get me wrong, there are countless iconic tracks across the whole series, but I've always felt like there was never that one theme that represented the series as a whole. I mean, Silent Hill has one. Akira Yamaoka gave the series a motif that is still used even today. And I mean, really think about it, what is the Resident Evil theme? Maybe it's the save music from the Resident Evil remake, or maybe it's the Marilyn Manson song from the movies? Oh, wait, I got this. It's the basement theme from Resident Evil Director's Cut. Now, all jokes aside, when I think Resident Evil, one song comes to mind: the intro music from Resident Evil Outbreak. I mean, what can I say? I think it just hits every note a theme for the series should hit. It's foreboding, it's creepy, it's even a little tragic, while also having this elegance to it. I mean, there's just something about it that just gives me goosebumps every time I listen to it. Now, in conclusion, do I think this game is for everyone? Probably not. I mean, for as much as I love the game, I really can't call it a flawless masterpiece. It's not beginner friendly, it's got some funky netcode, and all of the quality of life changes in File 2 are exclusive to the maps in File 2, meaning all the new abilities, NPC voices, and especially the updated lock-on system are all missing from the original 5 scenarios. But, on the other hand, this game still rocks. I would absolutely recommend you give it a try, whether you're a Resident Evil fan or just looking for a new game to play with friends. I mean, there's just something about this game, and clearly I'm not the only one who agrees. And who knows, maybe a port or a remake is just around the corner. I mean, if Silent Hill can come back, I'm sure Outbreak can. Anyways, that was my video. Thank you so much for watching.